Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome back to BYJU'S exam prep. My name is Alpa Sharma and this is our editorial analysis. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible to everyone. Very good morning. Good to see you guys back. If you could quickly confirm that I'm audible and visible, we shall start with our session very quickly. Good morning everyone. Am I clearly visible and audible? Hi Rishikesh. Good morning. Can you hear and see me clearly? Yes, looks like that. All right, guys. So I hope you had seen the previous video for this week and where I had covered one article. And I've got two articles today. And let me tell you what the agenda is going to be. For all those people who are watching me for the very first time, I have started coming live for our editorial analysis twice a week. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. So today's Thursday and that's why we're seeing each other back. I bought two articles today. The first article that I've bought is from the New York Times. And the second article that I've bought is from the Indian Express. So we'll be discussing both the articles. We'll try to do two articles today because the last class we did only one because it was possibly my very first interaction with a lot of you. So we'll try to do two articles now onwards in every class. And the agenda of the class is that we, one, cover up those articles that otherwise you guys might have missed out on, which can easily be framed into a reading comprehension in MBA entrance examinations. We will work on their vocabulary. We'll try to memorize the words. I jot them down into multiple slides and we know their synonyms and antonyms. We read these articles in a manner that we understand how am I supposed to read a reading comprehension? How am I supposed to solve it? What are the lines I need to pay attention to? What are the inferences that I can draw? How do I read between the lines? What's the summary, gist, main idea? These questions are answered. Tone of the author also has to be answered by you. So that's what your homework is. I'll tell you that later on. You are supposed to answer the tone of the author. So I hope I've got roughly 9 people watching me live and good morning everyone who's attending my class. Now let me quickly start off with the vocabulary of the day. Okay. So at any moment when I give you a word, when I show you a word, I am going to be explaining the meaning of the word to you and I expect you to send me synonyms and antonyms that you can think of out of the word. That will make sure that our vocabulary is expanded many folds. And since we have so many people live, you know what happens? I also take these Hindu editorial analysis for the undergraduate kids. And there are roughly 1K people who come live there. And with so many people coming live, imagine if everyone comes up with a synonym or an antonym. Look at the amount of words we're going to memorize. So here as well, I expect you to tell me synonyms and antonyms. Hi Rida, good to see you. So synonyms or antonyms batayenge. We're going to jot them down. We're going to take a screenshot of the words so that we can revise them later on during the day. Or ek baat samjho, if we regularly keep doing these words, if we regularly keep practicing these editorials, imagine how many are we going to do by the time November comes, right? Kitna practice kar lenge, kitni vocabulary kar lenge. So these classes are going to be helpful only and only when you're regular. Okay? So ready everyone? Shall we start with our vocabulary for today's class? Here we go with the first slide. So with the first slide, our first word is inevitable. Inevitable is something that's bound to happen. Hona hi hai. Is unavoidable. So if I say, if countries keep fighting with each other, a World War III is inevitable. It's bound to happen. It has to happen. It's unavoidable. Is inevitable. War was inevitable. If China keeps bothering us a lot, a war will be inevitable. I just hope not, but that's only an example. Inevitable is bound to happen. That's the first word of the class. Let's have a look at the second word, inundated. So inundated is a feeling of being overwhelmed when you have many things to do, many people to deal with. I am not overwhelmed when I have a lot of people live in my classes. I'll give you an example. What is the feeling of being overwhelmed? Overwhelming is the feeling when you are very anxious, you are jittery, you are nervous, or maybe you suddenly start crying, or you don't know what to do. Too many emotions coming all together in your mind. That's the feeling of being overwhelmed. So when you have so much to do, you have your college, you have your exams, you have to prepare for CAT, you have to prepare for every other thing, you have to sit for interviews, you have a job. If many things come up, sometimes people tend to feel overwhelmed. That's the feeling of being inundated. We've been inundated with the complaints from listeners. Maybe there are too many complaints. Yeah. So that is the feeling of being inundated. I hope you get this. Word number 2. Word number 3, diffuse. Now, one diffuse, of course, you know, is there's a diffuser. For example, for a perfume, what does it do? It spreads the perfume in the room. Have you seen the reed diffuser? There's a stick where you put oil and it diffuses the perfume in the room. So diffuses to spread, but there's another contextual meaning here. Now, when I say contextual meaning, remember, my children, every word may be used with multiple meanings. How? If I give you a word, cry, it will obviously mean weep. Yes, crying. But can I also say crying can be shouting out loud? Can that be true? Yes or no? I've got 14 people watching me. I'd like to know that you are able to understand what I'm explaining. Yes or no? Can cry be shouting out loud? Yes or no? What do you think about that? What do you think? In happiness as well, absolutely, roosters. Yes, of course, Prads, yes. Of course. Yes, Rida, correct, yes. नहीं रोहित बिल्कुल यूज हो सकता है. Her cry for help. She gave out a loud cry. Does not mean, Rishikesh, it can be used for shouting as well. Contextually, these examples. A war cry. Yes, I, correct. So cry can be used for shouting out loud as well. You have to understand what's the contextual usage. Every word may be used with a different meaning according to the context. आपको बहुत ध्यान से देखना है what meaning does it hold. Please, if you have synonyms or antonyms, CAT usually doesn't give you that, but other MBA entrance examinations do. If you have synonyms and antonyms from a reading comprehension, like NMAT usually has them, please understand the contextual meaning. We cannot mark the literal meaning. So, getting back to the contextual meaning of diffuse. Diffuse is you have no clarity. You don't know what to do is diffuse. The second argument is more diffuse. Probably the argument is not a strong one. The argument is a weak one. The argument doesn't hold any logic. I can call it a diffuse. It has no clarity, is diffuse. Did you get the meaning of diffuse, everyone? Yes. So that's word number 3. Apart from spreading out, it can also be something that doesn't have clarity. Last word for the slide is vagaries. So vagaries is a sudden change in the situation or a sudden change in the behavior of people. The vagaries of the weather. Which city can you think of where the weather is so unpredictable, it can suddenly change at any moment? I'm sure in North, there are no vagaries in the weather. When it's hot for months on and on. When it's cold for months on and on. For 3 months straight, cold weather. Very less vagaries. Can you give me an example of a city where vagaries are very common? Bangalore, yes, pretty common. Suddenly, it's so sunny and within minutes, it would start raining like cats and dogs. So the vagaries of weather, suddenly an unexpected change in the situation, in the behavior of people is vagaries. Delhi, Bangalore for sure, Sai. Yes, Bangalore for sure. Delhi का तो कहाँ vagaries है? Roosters, it's so predictable. अभी 2 महीना और गर्मी पड़ेगी, मैं आपको पहले बता देती हूँ. Slide number 1, जल्दी से screenshot ले लो. I'll move to the next slide now. I hope you are clear with every word. At any moment, if you don't get any word, please ask me then and there so that I'm able to explain that. Okay, you have to talk to me, only then I'll be able to understand, because I can't see your body language. While in physical classes I could see the body language and understand that you are able to get it or not. Here you are the only one who has to tell me that, ma'am, I did not get it. Slide number 2, metaphysical. Do you think this is one of Kat's favorite words? Looks like yes. Goa? Oh yes, absolutely. So metaphysical, anything that relates to philosophy, is actually Kat's favorite. They love giving such topics, such articles, and that's exactly why I've bought this article today. So metaphysical is a philosophy that deals with intangible things, abstract things, things that cannot be defined in a normal definition. For example, a philosophical theory that deals with life after death. Can you define that? Your religion may look at life after death from a different perspective. Somebody else's religion may look at life after death from a different perspective. But all of these are philosophical theories. We don't have a concrete definition for that. So, metaphysical is a philosophy that deals with explaining abstract things, intangible things that don't have a fixed definition. For example, time, space, identity, life after death, your existence. All of these are examples of metaphysical. Okay? Yes, correct. Let's move to they would regard the question of the initial conditions of the universe as belonging to the realm of metaphysical or religion. So, कैसे start हुआ? Big Bang से start हुआ universe? Could be. Suddenly God thought one day that I need people, and God started with the blink of an eye. Could be. So metaphysical is theories that we make for abstract things. Apocalyptic. This word became so popular in the last 2 years with the emergence of COVID. Last year, exactly during this time, all of us were witnessing the second wave of COVID. And I'm sure हम सबके दिमाग में ये word जरूर आया होगा. We must have thought of this word apocalyptic. I, at least for sure, because I was suffering from COVID, and everybody in my family, every single person was suffering. And I started losing people in my life to COVID. So apocalyptic was one word that came to my mind. The world is going to end. So a prophecy that the world will completely be destroyed. I thought after the second wave, the world is ending. So many people started dying after the second wave. So apocalyptic says a vision, a prophecy. Prophecy ka matlab bhavishwani. So a prophecy or predicting something that the world certainly will end. That's life after wedding. Why do you think life after wedding is apocalyptic? No, roosters, that's not true. That's not true. Apocalyptic vision of ecologists. Have you heard of the IPCC report? The COP26 meet held in November at Glasgow. The IPCC report that came out after the COP26 meet says the world is going to end soon if you don't work on controlling the climate change. Okay, so that's apocalyptic. Last word, that's a phrase, that's not a word, that's a phrasal verb. So dredging up. Dredging up is recalling old sad memories that suddenly flood back to your mind is dredging up. So reporters dredged up the fact that the senator avoided the military draft. She didn't like to dredge up bad memories. Recalling bad emotions, unpleasant things that has happened to you in the past is dredging up. When you see a psychologist, usually memories would start dredging up because you would talk to the psychologist, the psychiatrist about your experiences. That's dredging up. Slide number 2. I hope all the words are clear. Yes? Yes, roosters. After a few seconds, I think. So हो सकता है मैंने life after wedding को गलत word से relate कर लिया. Slide number 2. I hope everyone's clear with every word here. Okay? Guys, please keep talking to me. Please keep telling me, yes ma'am, we get it. No ma'am, we don't get it. Ma'am, please explain again. If you keep telling me, I'll be able to understand what your point of view is. Slide number 3, everyone. I hope slide number 2 was taken a screenshot of. Subversive. Subversive is when there is an already established authority and you do something to undermine its power or importance. I'll give you an example to make you understand this word. Can I say our Constitution of India is already an established authority and nobody, absolutely nobody Not even the judiciary or the executive or the federal system has the power to alter or go against the constitution, barring a few amendments. Now, if somebody does something that violates any one of your fundamental rights, for example, a fundamental right of privacy is violated when somebody tracks on your location and the messages you send. Can I say it's a subversive action? It undermines, it violates an already established power, already established authority. That's subversive. Did you get subversive, everyone? Yes. एक ऑलरेडी बनी बनाई अथॉरिटी है और आपने उसको उसके अगेंस्ट कुछ कर दिया जो कि उसकी अथॉरिटी को कम कर देगा, डिमीन कर देगा, is subversive. Word number 2, roiling, irritating. These days, summer vacations, the kids actually are roiling me outside. क्योंकि वो बाहर खेलते, they keep playing outside and they make so much noise and they keep disturbing my classes in the evening. Because obviously they would play outside. So roiling is irritated, annoyed. So many synonyms you can think of. Who's going to tell me synonyms for roiling? Who's going to tell me synonyms of roiling? Irritated, annoyed. Synonyms बताइए. Think. Many synonyms to roiling. Acha, by the time you tell me synonyms to roiling, I've been teaching for the last 12 years. Almost 12, ab hone wale hain 12. I'll tell you something very honestly here. You give me 3 months and regularly with my classes, I'll guarantee you something. You will never get, after these 3 months, you will never get central idea, theme, gist, title, main idea, these questions wrong ever. You will never get tone of the question, author question wrong ever. These 2 questions I can guarantee you on. And since you are able to answer these 2 questions, you will easily be able to answer the inferential questions. What can be inferred and not inferred. And your ability to solve reading comprehension would go up drastically. You have to be consistent. You'll have to give me this time. But I can guarantee you this. So, I hope we have a very good learning time together. Roiling, irritated. Let's see if we have churning, disturbing. Yes. बिल्कुल हो सकता है, churning भी हो सकता है, the churning feeling inside. Yeah. Okay? Correct. Hi Gaurav. Next one, truism. That's also a philosophical theory. A theory that says, okay, it's there everywhere. You don't have to tell me. It's true. Is a theory that depends on truism. Nothing new, nothing interesting. It's obviously true. The world is round. It's not flat. Because if you start from one point, and we keep traveling, we'll come back to the same point again. It's a truism. If you jump from a building, you're going to fall down. The gravity is going to pull you. That's truism. कुछ नया बताओ. It's cliched. Okay, it's cliched. That is, okay, everybody knows it. It's evident. The truism that you get what you pay for. Market में there are so many, when you talk about economy, a free economy, yeah, a lot of things. This is for free. You buy this packet, you will get this thing free. You will get only and only what you pay for. You are going to pay for this free thing as well. This will never come free to you. That's a truism. I hope everybody knows that. After all, CET August में चला गया. Yes. Agitated for roiling, बिल्कुल correct Ridha. You can say agitated. Turbulent, churn, boil, agitated, Devansh, correct for roiling. Very good. Thank you guys for indulging into a conversation with me. Truism is kind of obvious. Absolutely, Gaurav. You don't have to restate that. It's obvious, it's evident, it's visible. Okay, that's truism. Debilitating. Okay, so debilitating is becoming very, very weak, infirm, Can I say Delhi's weather these days is debilitating? It will make you weak. It is burning hot there. So debilitating back pain, it is gradually debilitating cancer. It gradually makes people very, very weak. So that is debilitating. Last word for the slide, rehash. Rehash is basically reusing without making much changes. Can I say I'm pretty old, so I can't think of the new musicians, but I can think of the old one. Anu Malik and Preetham, and then these new ones, Badshah and all. They just rehash music. They don't create something new. They just reuse the old one. Nothing new is rehash. Can I say truism is related to rehash? Yes. Debilitating is worsening, absolutely. Ma'am, should I write down the words if I'm taking the lecture on laptop? Devansh, see, you can obviously take a screenshot, but what I will highly recommend is that you write them down, because writing makes it easier for you to memorize the words, and when you have them written down in a book, it's easier for you to revise them as well. And the better your vocabulary is, the better your reading comprehension skills would be. That's a truism. Okay, so truism and rehash, they are related words. पुरानी ही चीज को एक वापस कुछ मिक्स एंड मैच करके रिवाइव करके फिर से यूज करना, नथिंग न्यू, नथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चेंज, नो चेंज हैज हैपेंड रादर is rehash. Or endless rehashes songs from his American, he endlessly rehashes songs. That means he uses them again without changing them. So yes, so that is rehash related to truism. Slide number 3 or 4, whatever it is, take a screenshot, everyone. Now we're going to move to the next slide. Here we go. I think that's the last slide. Yeah, that's the last slide. Slide number 4. Eschew, dur rehna, abstain from something. So during Navratras, my mom abstains from garlic and onion. She deliberately avoids using something, is eschew or abstaining from something. He appealed to the crowd to eschew violence, stay away from violence. That's what our constitution says, stay away from violence. So that is eschew. दूर रहना किसी चीज से जानबूझ के, eschew. Next word is gleaning. Gleaning is collecting from a lot of sources. When somebody does a research, do they glean information? Yes, they do. They collect information from a lot of sources. That's gleaning. Absolutely, Devansh. Perfect example. Though I don't listen to him, but example perfect hai. Avoiding, leaving, eschew. Abstaining, perfect synonym hai iska. Okay. Debilitating paths for draining and enfeeble. Perfect. Enfeeble, perfect synonym to debilitating. Enfeeble hota bahut weak ho jana. Okay. So we are done with gleaning as well. Gathering from a lot of sources is gleaning. Espionage is usually when the government tries to spy about the other country or tries to obtain secret information, usually by government, is called espionage. The camouflage and secrecy of espionage. Spying, jaise like a detective, gathering secret information, usually done by governments, is espionage. Political military information nikalne ke liye, espionage. Every time we've heard of Pakistan attacking a border, आप लॉन्गे वाला border, for example, आप देखो, so you know there's a recce that they have always done. Why is the recce done? That's a kind of an espionage, to gather information about where our troops are lying, what kind of arms and ammunitions do we have. Do you remember once we saw a drone flying into our territory, J&K mein? Now no more J&K. Yaad hai? So that drone can also be called as an example of espionage. So rehash के लिए reprisal, reconsideration, retrospect. Yes, yes. Just remember retrospect with a little bit of negativity. Okay, that's what rehash can be. Espionage, I hope it's clear to everyone. Drudgery, repeated again and again and again, very boring, very monotonous is drudgery. Monotonous, boring, repeated, बार बार एक ही चीज करते जाओ is drudgery. Domestic drudgery. Your mom sometimes must be complaining, क्या मुझे रोज I have to make rotis every day, I have to make rice every day. It's such a drudgery, it's boring. Let's go out somewhere, let's go out and eat. So that's, or your dad for that matter of fact, if he cooks. So that's drudgery. Can I say domestic work is drudgery? Doing the same work again and again and again. Washing clothes, cleaning utensils, making food, that's drudgery. Monotonous and boring is drudgery. The last word, inclement. So inclement is very unpleasantly cold and wet weather. During monsoons, can I say Bangalore has an inclement weather? Yes. When you go on hikes, walkers should be prepared for inclement weather. They should be carrying umbrella or a raincoat because it can be unpleasantly cold, unpleasantly wet. Okay. Espionage. Salman in Ek Tha Tiger. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know that. I don't know that. Okay. So Gaurav, Ek Tha Tiger type movies are your favorite? Are they? I hope inclement is clear to everyone. Slide 4 and we are done with the vocabulary. I bought such an interesting article to read today. In fact, both the articles you're going to have a gala time reading them. One article is from the New York Times, the other article is from the Indian Express. Okay. So, before I show you the article, I hope you had taken a screenshot for all the words. I hope you've jotted them down. If you are writing it at some place, I expect you to do that though. And if you're targeting CAT 2022, a comprehensive program has been launched. Start your prep today with BYJU'S exam prep. Look no further because you here are being trained by serial 99 percentilers and I am alumni. So, jaldi enroll kar lo. Speak to our counselors here on this number and enroll yourself right away. Here we go with the first article. Okay, before I show you the article, let me tell you something. Let me give you a brief about the article. Okay. Who does not like stories? Who does not like stories? Who does not like stories? किसको नहीं पसंद the stories? Everybody does, right? Everyone loves to watch stories. Or read as well. I tell you a story, you would actually, without blinking an eye, listen to the story that I narrate. And I'll narrate a lot of stories to you. Throughout the year, everybody would like stories. There's nobody who does not like stories. Hai na? And then, if you look at any kind of story that we like, Gaurav, एक दूसरा perspective देखो. Everybody likes stories, right? Everybody loves to listen to them, read them. And all the more even better when either there's a hero who kills the villain. Lord of the Rings dekho. It was brilliant, right? Rishikesh, okay, let me read. They should eschew espionage using drones. It is very roiling. Perfect, Rishikesh. That's a very good way of using vocabulary and memorizing them. I'm very proud of you. Keep doing that. Everybody loves stories, and we also love them even more when there's a hero who wins over, when there's a meek, quiet girl who needs to be saved and the hero would come up. Ya fir fight honi chahiye. Everybody loves such kind of stories. Does COVID also have a story? Or rather, COVID breaks all the rules of human narrative. Human narrative, human storytelling ideas. Our common storytelling ideas, गरीब से अमीर हो गया, rags to riches, या फिर एक चीज थी जो उसको अचीव करनी थी, उसने अपनी पूरी मेहनत करके वो चीज अचीव करी. He wanted to reach somewhere. Like you've seen all the movies about sports. They wanted to achieve something and they had all the hardship and they worked really hard to achieve. So it's a quest that they wanted to follow. These are our standardized Hollywood, Bollywood masala movies that we like to watch. Even if they're not masala. Lord of the Rings, it's not a masala movie. Yet, you would find instances of all the kind of stories that I narrated to you. Does COVID have a story? Or does it go away from all the kind of common stories we've looked at? This article talks about that. Let's try to read that. Read the page and send me a done when you're done. Then we'll read this in detail. Yes, Prats, you're correct with the synonyms to implement. Read the page and send me a done, everyone. Everyone loves stories. So, हम क्या करते हैं? We try to find a story in COVID as well. Are we done reading this page? Are we done? Okay. Now see, I hope you're done. In popular culture, a successful plot is a recognizable plot. All of us, anything that's popular, we know what's going to happen in the end. A hero's epic journey. You can look at Sherlock Holmes. You can look at Sidney Sheldon novels. You could look at all the popular Hollywood movies. या फिर the marriage is inevitable consummation. शादी होनी ही थी, होके ही रहेगी. You knew the wedding is going to happen. The dashing warrior who slays the monster. So all the sci-fi movies, all the movies that had these creatures, and there would be a hero that would come and kill the monster. Some narratologists argue that there are no more than a handful of basic plots. Same plots repeated over and over and over again. Storylines that are recycled again and again with something new added, but the basic line would remain the same. The quest, the rebirth, the rags to riches, Amir's Garib se Amir ho gaya, and these are popular ones. Hollywood also follows the same. And mind me, this is not written on Bollywood. This is a New York Times article. So it focuses on Hollywood only. Hollywood also has the same. Right? Like Harry Potter, that rags to riches and a warrior who slays the monster. Hollywood producers tend to agree, as illustrated by an old industry joke by my father. A screenwriter once told me about the head of the production who demands a movie plot that is exactly the same as the last one. So he said everyone wants the same plot. A little difference, but the plot has to be the same. So we love predictable stories. We love a conclusion that's satisfying to our heart. We love an ending of that sort. As the coronavirus pandemic appears to be coming to an end, looks like with the Z virus, we don't know, but looks like it's coming to an end. Itself being a literary term of art, we may think we know its complete story. Why? Let me link it to something. Hero somehow impresses the female. Yes, absolutely. All movies looks like they are rehashed. Yes, Rishikesh, correct. Now see, when you grow old and when you have grandchildren, what are you going to tell them about COVID? You're going to tell them, Jab Dadaji used to be a college student, there was a pandemic and there was coronavirus, and you would narrate a story to your grandchildren like this, right? God willing. And then you would tell them, how will you end the story? Hi Vijay, how will you end the story? You will end the story possibly like, and then our heroes were the scientists who developed the vaccination. Everybody got vaccinated and suddenly, in a blink of an eye, there was no COVID anymore. So, bache, the bukhar that you have today, the fever that you have today is nothing but it used to be a deadly COVID. While I was young, you could narrate a story of this sort. So, we possibly think that we know the complete story. COVID has saturated the news and inundated media streams of all genus and species. Last 2 years, COVID's news has been invariably coming in every single newspaper. During the first lockdown, I'm sure your father or your mother or any one of your family members just sat with the TV on with thousands and thousands of news coming in about COVID. These many cases, these many deaths, these vaccination, this conspiracy about Wuhan lab. So it's everywhere, but information is not story. So where is our COVID story? That's information, these cases, these deaths. Where is our story? Not all Facebook posts, TikTok videos, nor death, hospitalization statistics. These TikTok videos are not stories. These Facebook posts are not stories. Clap your hands and COVID will go away. Bang the thali and COVID will go away. These are not stories. Where is our COVID story? How has COVID ended? What is our closure to the story? We don't know that. Stories are fundamental to the human experience. Everybody wants stories. The historian Yuval Noah has argued that the key to why Homo sapiens came to rule the world, fiction has enabled us not merely to imagine things, but to do so collectively. That is, all of us collectively like thinking of stories. When probably after 5 years you sit down with your old friends, you would talk about, oh, what time was it? Everybody was suffering, we could not see each other. You would be sharing a drink and you would be talking about that after your MBA is done. You would collectively be making stories. So it's a collective behavior. Mr. Harari wrote in Sapiens. You know, right? He's the writer for Sapiens. How many of you have read Sapiens, by the way? When Dadaji was not Dadaji. Yes, that's the story. He faced COVID and then he got vaccinated and then defeated virus with his sheer strength. All that masala, absolutely. You would put all the masala. That means we love stories. And it's a collective behavior. Not one person, but everybody would make up stories. And today, it might actually be a very disturbing idea to think of your grandchildren. But trust me, after 10 years, you would. So I'll talk to you after 10 years when if you or I am alive. So, Mr. Harari wrote The Sapiens, and if you've read the novel, you would know what it talks about. How will we think of the episode of human history, this episode of COVID? How will we think about that? What will we glean from it? In order to come to terms with what has happened, the losses, the fear, the conspirational craziness. You know, my daughter, she keeps asking me, Mama, who sent this COVID? And I keep telling her some naughty country did. And then she keeps asking me, Mama, who's going to straighten them up? And I keep telling her, another naughty country would straighten the other naughty country up. That is, all of these are conspirational craziness. Our conspiracy. Ki Wuhan lab mein ban ke nikla ye virus. These are all conspiracy theories. We don't know what's the reality. The isolation. We could not see each other. Our grandchildren would actually possibly think about that. How is that possible that you couldn't see yourself, your friends, your family members staying in the same house? Is my voice cracking? Is my voice cracking? Is my voice cracking, people? Could you please confirm that? Guys, is my voice clear? Video team, if you could quickly confirm that, is my voice cracking? Video team, could you please get this fixed? Now it's clear, okay. All right, I'll continue. If in case it cracks again, just let me know, okay? I'll change my mic. Getting back to it. So we were isolated. We had our own conspiracy theories. COVID will also need its own story. What will the COVID plot be? Let's think about that. Read the page and send me a done when you're done. Video team, could you please confirm, is it continuously cracking? Should I change my mind? Let me just check. Shouldn't happen. Read the page and send me a done, everyone. So we see our hero of the story coming up here. Everybody needs heroes in their stories. Our heroes, doctors and nurses and frontline workers. Did you love it, Prads? Okay, Gaurav, I'll get that fixed after the class ends. Done. So there go. We found our heroes here. But the problem is, all of us, we are not on a consensus. We're not on a common understanding of what this COVID is and how it has impacted us. China will have its own story. USA will have its own story. India has its own story. South Africa has its own story because of lack of vaccinations. But we know we have a common hero. The heroes are doctors, nurses, medical workers. Then there's pain and sacrifice dispersed among neighbors and victims and volunteers. So there's pain, there's sacrifice, and then there are stories of heroism. The bad guys are neither monsters nor demons. Who's the bad guy? It's a tiny virus. And the vagaries of biology and the long-held habits of tribalism that have left us angry or indifferent. Either we got really angry during the second wave. I got very, very angry. I was very disturbed during the second wave. And then I became indifferent because I lost so many people in my life. I thought, okay, that's how life is. You became indifferent. You were not impacted. For most of us, there were no grand metaphorical or metaphysical lessons learned. In a story, usually in the end, there's a lesson that you learn. Like a Panchatantra moral that comes in the end. Here we don't have any lessons that we've learned. Has narrative at long last deserted us? So looks like our common belief of storytelling has ended. COVID looks like it has no story at all. No villains, no demons, no monsters to be killed. It is going to stay here forever. Many of the attempts made so far to capture the pandemic in storylines. Many people tried. Of course. Who would not have tried to make it into a story? Our Country Friends, a novel, Apple TV's morning show, The Bubble, for example, are at their heart domestic and workplace comedies, slice of life neo farces that gloss over the omnipresent dread and anger that have gripped the world over the past 2 years. So these are basically examples of people, of shows that have tried to construct a story out of COVID. Everyone has tried to make a story. You and I will also possibly try when we have grandchildren to make stories, right? Okay, so there's clearly a market for such representations. There are viewers. If somebody tells you, come, I'll narrate you a story about COVID, you would want to listen to that. 4 million viewers turned into the South Park episode of the Pandemic Special. They made the episode's name Pandemic Special, and 4 million people turned up to watch it. Possibly because the name was the Pandemic Special. But these comedic works have generally presented the pandemic only as backdrop. And no storyline has been given to COVID. They would keep the pandemic as the backdrop. Like pandemic tha, so everybody was making Dalgona coffee. So we're talking about pandemic as the backdrop, but the main story is Dalgona coffee. This is not a story about where the pandemic has taken us to. They are not COVID plot, they are COVID adjacent. Where is our story of COVID? Everybody has been looking for it. A variation on COVID plot has been the plague narrative. Now, see, the author compares it. Yes, he certainly is, Prats. So, now see, the author here compares COVID story to a plague story. Very similar, yes. I'm sure you must have heard your granny or your granddad saying there used to be plague while you were too young. or while you were not even born, there used to be, wo bimari ho gayi thi, ye bimari ho gayi thi, so many people died. Have you heard of such stories from your grandparents? Familiar stories. They look like a repetition. But again, COVID is different from plague. COVID is different from any other disease that kills so many people. So, the Michael Bay produced Insta movie Songbird about a fictitious COVID-23 in post-apocalyptic Los Angeles offers a modern version of the plague narrative, dredging up every cliche of zombified sci-fi. So, its Songbird is basically a fictitious movie that says it's a zombified sci-fi movie, includes Big Bad, that is a person who plays this, Peter Stormare, and the obligatory damsel in distress. Who is a damsel in distress? An unmarried woman who is in a problematic situation, and then a hero would come who would rescue the woman, and it will have all the zombified sci-fi plot. But COVID is not that. Where is our COVID story? Yes, yes, Gaurav, it's a similar story, but it's different. Yes, plague for sure was similar, and I'm sure you must have heard your grandparents saying. But then our story still is missing. आगे क्या होता story जाती कहाँ है? Let's see. Read the page and send me done. Tell me if you could find the answers here. Send me done when you're done. We certainly can associate a gothic fantasy, dark fantasy, secrets. Who started with the virus? How did it come into existence? Possibly it was created in a Wuhan lab and then it leaked, and then China regrets that. It has some suspense and secret, like mad scientists doing some experiment in a lab that leaked out. Right? It could be a gothic fantasy. This version of COVID plot has become the property of the conspiracy theorists. Everyone is interested in conspiracy. And then we have so many conspiracies. But do we have any ounce of truth in that? Possibly not. Those who see virus as a result of conscious maleficence, pandemic as plandemic. It was a plan. And a mad scientist created this virus to destroy the world. It's not a pandemic, it's a plandemic. These are also the kind of stories we hear. This narrative is feverish and simplistic, with comic book style villains wielding microchips and master plans. Of course, comic books में ही ऐसा होता है ना, एक mad scientist है who created a virus with microchips and master plans. That's a comic book story. That's not our story. We are not looking for that. It may satiate primal desires. It may give us some satisfaction. Okay, we know where it came from. But where is it going? It relies upon too many untruths. We don't know if this is a fact. Too many things to assume. Too many things that are dependent only and only on conspiracy. There's no fact here. Can you tell your grandchildren these conspiracies? You can tell them these were the beliefs. But if you are unsure, you can't tell them that a scientist created in a Wuhan lab and just doesn't jive with the day-to-day dullness of this pandemic that has driven so many of us to the edge. Yes, we were driven to the edge. We were suffering. And we have no solace from such pandemic stories. We have no satisfaction out of these stories. Right? Absolutely no real backing of facts. Correct. What happens next? Last 2 pages. Here you go. Read the page and send me done. We're still finding for an ending. Where does the COVID story go? Read this, everyone. Send me done when you're done. It has a very important point. Let me see if you could figure out the point. The main idea is changed here. Done? So, do you remember once you got hurt? Once you got hurt, do you remember the pain that you had? You remember you got hurt. You don't remember the pain. Your mind is made that way because it's good to forget pain. It will save you from all the anxiety. It's good to forget the pain. You once broke your arm, but you don't remember. You remember it was very painful, but you don't remember. You can't recall the pain. Your mind forgets pain. But, here starts a very, very important paragraph. Remember, where there's a contradiction, we have to be very careful about the main idea. The main idea can actually have a new opinion added. But can we forget the pain at the societal level? When people started mixing saline water into remdesivir vaccinations, injections, and started selling it for 30k each. When each oxygen cylinder was sold for 20k, that too was not available and people were dying for oxygen and breath. Where seats were not available, beds were not available in hospitals. So forgetting pain at a societal level, will that be okay? Should we be forgetting that pain? No, we shouldn't. Because something that disturbs the society, that pain should not go out of your head. As the philosopher George wrote, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. If you forget the pain, possibly people are going to recreate these remdesivirs, fill it up with fake vaccinations and give it to people. Sell it, make money out of a pandemic. Keep hoarding oxygen cylinders because someday you might need that. Perhaps we have to accept the fact that COVID has no plot, as the narratologists have defined such a thing, that we'll never read the great American COVID novel. Possibly there never be a novel on COVID. We'll never read a closure to it. We'll never forget the pain. And maybe that's a good thing. At this point, we don't need any other rehash of our well-worn mythology. Hamaरी mythologies, Hindu mythology, Greek mythology, we have read so many stories about them. I'm sure you have, right? Watching Mahabharata, Ramayana so many times, reading the Oedipus concept thousands and thousands of times, right? You've read so many Greek mythological stories. They are overused, they're cliched, they're well worn out. We don't need any one of such stories to be repeated in the form of COVID. We don't need such a story. Rather, we don't need any story. Looks like COVID does not have a story. Maybe instead, this moment will force us into a new paradigm for making sense of the world. So, looks like we'll be thinking about there can be things without a storyline. We shouldn't actually be looking for a story in everything. Yes, that is Galileo, Darwin, Einstein transformed the way people understood the narrative structure of their lives, telling us that we were no longer at the center of the universe, that we were the outcome of incremental change and not divine spark. God did not create us, these people told us. It was a big bang, that our ideas of time and space were subjective. What were taught to us through religion and mythology and stories were wrong. These people told us that. Looks like there's a time now to learn something new from the pandemic. Could we be on the verge of such a moment of difficult enlightenment? Yes, we could. We are moving out of regular storytelling. A closure that's there always in the end. Not a new plot perhaps, but a new understanding. There's no plot for COVID. If so, let it be one that eschews the hero's journey. We don't have a hero's journey. We replace it with the mosaic of collective valor. There's not one hero. There's a mosaic. Mosaic is collection of many tiles making a bigger picture. Looks like there are many heroes that we have. We have the frontline workers, the people who created vaccination, the doctors who treated us despite they being into the PPE kit for 24/7. So we have thousands of collective will or stories. It's a mosaic, not one hero. And human community assembled to withstand the ferocity of nature when it assumes its next specially violent form. So we know a next violent form may come up. A new variant of COVID may come up. But we are dealing with it. We are fighting with it. All of us coming together to withstand the ferocity of nature. Nature was mad at us. We dealt with it. You and I have survived COVID. Looks like we have. That may be our best shot at a happy ending. So this looks like our happy ending. No closure to the story, but happy ending. So if you and I survive COVID, we're going to tell our grandchildren, let's see, granny or granddad survived COVID. That's our happy ending. Did you love the story here, everyone? Hi, Panda baby, you found me here. Panda baby, तुम सब जगह ढूंढोगे मुझे. Did you like the story? Are you going to be coming here, Panda baby, regularly? Did you like the story, everyone? If you like the article that I bought, please like my session. Please do that. Please like my session. Please share it. There's one more article pending that we're going to do. I'm not ending my class. That's a shorter, very short article. So please like the video. Please share the video. Please comment under my video after the class if you've liked it. Okay. Shall we move to the next article, everyone? This was a very good story. Yes. Koi baat nahi, Panda baby, you can attend the class here as well. Okay. So you have a little bit of homework. You have to comment under my video with good things if you've liked the class. Also, you have to comment under my video with the tone of the author. I'll be checking it. Okay. Because next I'll see you on Tuesday. Let's come to the next article. Okay. So there's a South Korean researcher and he's gleaned insights from what other people throw away. Garbage. This researcher has found something from the garbage. It's a very funny story. Very, very funny story. Let's see that. Give me a second. Let me have a sip of water and then I'll tell you the gist of the story here. Give me a second. Let me have a sip of water. Then we'll continue with the story. So, what did the South Korean researcher do? He found, as so many private eyes searching for clues do, that what people throw away can. He found something in garbage. With the right interpretation, yield a treasure trove of information. He found so much of information in garbage. How could he do that? Let's read his story. This is from the Indian Express. Okay, so not every spy is James Bond. James Bond has ruined our imagination about spies. Sitting in a club with fancily dressed women around, sipping his martinis and sangria or his wine and smoking on a cigar. Is every spy like that? No, that's an untrue image of a spy. This glamorous setting, that's untrue. More often, it is slow, painstaking work, full of drudgery, common to most professions. This work is painstaking. This work needs repetition again and again. It's not as fancy as James Bond and his stories are. And this repetitive reading of things again and again and again in the hope that some useful information might come out and provide insight and leverage. That's how the life of a spy is. Not easy. Not like James Bond. Kang Dong-wan, a South Korean researcher, is not a spy. But given the dedication with which he collected and studied the garbage that washed up on the shores from North Korea. He's a South Korean researcher. See the link. So, North Korea, South Korea. He is at the shore. He is a South Korean. He's at the shore. There is garbage that's coming from North Korea, washing up to the shore. Looks like he studied something from the garbage. What did he study? Let's find that out, everyone. Thank you, Devansh. Ma'am, ये तो post graduation level का होगा ना, ये सब हमें. Of course, Panda, if you come to the CAT and MBA channel, you will find kids who would wish to pursue post graduation only. Thank you, Prats. Thank you, my child. So let's see what happens next. What did he find? Can has found, as so many private eyes searching for clues do, that what people throw away can, with the right information, yielded a treasure trove of information. What information was that? We still don't know. From discarded packets of fast food, to candy wrappers, to rubbish from the north. That is, North Korea, say the rubbish that came up to the shore. This is South Korea. This scientist is here. He saw the rubbish. Rubbish like candy wrappers, fast food packets. It provided him with a sketch of changes taking place in the notoriously isolated dictatorship. You know North Korea is notorious. At least the leader is. You know it's isolated. You don't know anything about what happens in the country. Everything is hidden. But looking at the garbage that flows from North Korea to South Korea, you know, North Korea and South Korea are enemies. So for a South Korean to find something about North Korea is very difficult. He found things out by looking at the garbage. For example, what did he find? Increasing amount of fast food waste indicates that Kim Jong-un has been forced to cater to the desire of market-based consumerism. Increasing amount of fast food packets looks like this king is succumbing to consumerism. Looks like he has to give in. There are more products coming in the North Korean market. That the packaging of the unhealthy delectables often mimics South Korean counterparts. Looks like North Korean people eat the similar kind of things. South Korean counterparts too. With the hope that despite a hard border and ideological differences, the border between South Korea and North Korea is hard. You can't cross it. The difference is huge in ideologies. The tastes looks like they're the same. Looking at the garbage, he could infer that. In their taste, people remain the same. हम same बात करते हैं ना about India Pakistan. We say the border is hard, the ideologies are different. Our tastes are same. The people are the same. Aren't they? The similar thing is visible here in his interpretation of the garbage. Kang was forced to comb the shoreline for garbage as a result of the pandemic. He had nothing to do. He kept waiting at the shore. What would he do? He would just look into the garbage. He lost access to goods and people from the North Korea and Chinese border towns due to the strict lockdown. He did not know anything about what's happening there. He was often stranded on a beach if a ferry didn't arrive and forced to spend the night in inclement weather. And the weather was cold and dark and wet. What would he do in the weather? He would just scrape through the garbage. Local residents actually complained to the police that there's a strange man eagerly collecting through the trash. Who is this strange man? Who is this weird man? This man actually turned out to be possibly a spy, working like a spy. The results of his investigations, though, are no secret. He aims to understand his neighbors, North Korea, sundered from the common community by a history of violence and suspicion. They hate each other. There's violence between both the countries. Now that's a goal worth spending the time in the dirt for. That is, if you want to know more about your neighbors, you should actually be spending time in the dirt. So, ऐसा accent की वजह से है Panda baby? Simple article, yes. So, what's your homework? Your homework is to write good comments under my video. Please do. Share it with everyone. Please do. Like my video if you haven't done that yet. Comment with the tone of the author of each article. Think about that. Immediately after the class ends, take a few seconds. Recall both the articles. Tell me the tone of the author about each article in the comment section. I'll be answering to you in the comment section according to what your statement is. Okay? And subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Also, you can keep following us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, and download our app on Google Play. Thank you so much, everyone. I would see you back on Tuesday. I had a lovely time teaching all of you. Have a very, very good weekend. Work really hard. Read a lot. God bless all of you. Bye, everyone.